And welcome back to my channel. So we've just entered a brand new year, and I've spent the last couple of weeks kind of going through my own process of intention setting for the new year, reflecting on the year that's just passed and setting intentions and visualizing what I want my next year to look like. So today I just wanted to share that process with you guys because I think it might be helpful for people who kind of want to set New Year's resolutions but find it a little bit restrictive or limiting. I tend to stray away from calling my New Year's intentions resolutions because I think resolutions have gained this energy of changing or fixing something that's broken, which I don't think is necessarily a helpful way to approach things. As opposed to resolutions, I think that setting intentions offers you the opportunity to approach these situations in your life from a more self-compassionate point of view. I am a very visual person, and I really like to incorporate a vision board into this process. I'm someone who is definitely a Pinterest girly. I have way too many Pinterest boards, but I really love making a vision board, especially for the whole of a year, because I just think it adds that extra step. Once you've defined what your goals are and what your intentions are, it allows you to visualize what you actually want your life to look like. And I think that's a very important step because sometimes we get caught up in chasing these goals, but we don't actually think about what life will look like when we have them. And is that actually something that I want, or is it just something that I think I should have? So I think it's a really important extra step for me anyway. Step 1 is to journal and get clear on your desires. And I think it's essential to look back at the year that has just passed and really take stock of it. How I go about that is I usually just start by going through my camera roll on my phone. This is honestly just to remind myself what actually happened. I think sometimes in a year, 1 or 2 key big things usually happen, at least in my experience, and I kind of forget about all the little moments, trips, days, memories, and I think that this is a really good way to remind myself of, oh yes, this one really big thing happened, but also on January I went to a trip here, or in March I had this really wonderful day with my friends. So this is step 1 for me, just to remind myself of the beautiful things that happened, but also to give myself a good overview of like everything that happened in the year. From here, I open up my journal, and I'm a really big journaler anyway, so this is kind of second nature to me, but I think if you are not someone who journals regularly, this is a good place to start because I actually use prompts to get started, reflecting about the year that's just passed. So for example, I'll put some on the screen here that could be starting points for you. These are just some examples. You could tweak them or add your own questions as you see fit. Then, once I've completed that step, I will move on to prompts for 2025. And this is less about setting concrete goals at this point, but more about kind of the vibes that you would want to enter the year with. So, for example, the first one I like to start with is how do I want to feel in 2025? Because I think goals and achievements are one marker of progress, but at the end of the day, I think every goal that we make is usually chasing some sort of feeling. So whether it's that you want to feel creative, you want to feel successful, you want to feel beautiful, you want to feel kind, all of these things, you can reach them through concrete goals. But I think that you should prioritize the feelings that you want first and let the goals come from there instead of the other way around. So that's what I start with. I'll put some more prompts here on the screen. Also, again, you can pick and choose which of these that work for you. Usually I'd use Pinterest and search like New Year journaling prompts to help me get started, and I just choose the questions that stick out to me the most because it is a very personal process. So step 2 is that I choose a word for the year. Again, this kind of comes out of that journaling process and is more of an intuitive, vibes-based choice. And I also want to say at this point that this is not something that I would sit down and do in the space of 45 minutes to an hour in one day. It's kind of a process that I would do across several days, several weeks, maybe even a month. So that is also why I'm posting this now in January, because I don't think that there's a timeline for this. And I honestly think that to start on the first day of the new year with all of these goals ready in place and ready to go is really unrealistic and also really out of sync with kind of living with the seasons, like how we're supposed to live. Winter is usually a time of rest, reflection, not taking major steps forward until the spring, when we usually start to like put things more into motion. So I usually let this step come to me throughout that process. It usually makes itself kind of obvious, but I basically choose a word for the year. And it's not like I sit down with a dictionary and leaf through the pages and choose a word. It's usually a word that is kind of a common thread through all of the things that I journal about that I want to bring in. My word of 2022 was expand. And that was a year that I felt at the start of it in January very stuck, very limited. I was in a city I didn't really want to be in at the time, in a relationship I didn't really feel was right for me. And that was the year that I finished my degree. I started a new job, and eventually at the end of the summer I moved to Spain alone, completely alone, and I basically lived in Spain then on and off for a year and a half. So that was a year that completely changed my life. And by setting that intention of expand at the start of the year, it was something that I could come back to when all the external realities shifted. So no matter what concrete goals I'd set myself, some happened. I wanted to move abroad, some didn't. But I could always come back to that word as kind of like a grounding idea of, if nothing else, this is my focus for the year. And I think that it worked. So something that can be something that you do is to set a word for the year. The next step is step 3, and that is to get specific. But this is where I get specific, actionable, achievable goals. So maybe one of my goals was to feel more energized, and I want to do that through having a better exercise and workout routine. So this is the part where I would say, okay, how am I actually going to do that? Which exercises am I going to choose? Am I going to go to the gym, or am I going to be more of a runner? And what are the actual steps that I can take to do that? Am I going to join a class? Am I going to sign up for a 5k run, for example? You can do this part however you want. It could also be in your journal using pen and paper. I prefer to do this part digitally just because I like for it to be easy to come back to and reflect on as the year progresses. So I have been using Notion this past year to do that. I can't really show a concrete layout for this, but I'm sure you've done this before, or there are many different templates that you can use online. It's really just whatever works for you. I honestly find it helpful for this part to either just focus on month by month or quarters or seasons. And that also takes the pressure off planning the whole entire year, which I think is unachievable, honestly. In my experience, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing come October, November. But there's no way for me to plan out my entire year, and I shouldn't do that really, because I want to stay open to what comes up. I can check in again and reflect, have my goals changed? Have my desires changed? Do my practices and routines need to change also to reflect that? The last part is the most fun part, and that is vision boarding. So with this, I usually do it alongside all of the other steps. I'm kind of picking up images as I go. I always start with Pinterest. As I've said, I'm a Pinterest addict. So I'll have a board that is the year. And I'll show some examples here on screen, maybe from years past. And I just collect different images that show what I would hope my life would look like or I find inspiring. I would say to be specific when you're choosing your images. So it doesn't have to be so literal. For example, it could be more to show the type of feeling that you want to have, for example. I try to focus on that when I'm choosing images. And with the Pinterest board, I basically just chuck in everything. Like everything that I connect with that I think, yes, I want some of that in the new year. I like this energy. I want to do something like that. So the Pinterest board is kind of just a sprawling map of everything that I want to attract. Then I go through more of a selection process where I choose specific images that I think really represent the things that I truly desire, and I will put them onto an actual vision board. So I usually use Canva and just use the desktop wallpaper layout, and I'll make a collage of basically the year. So kind of choosing specific images that I think best relate. I also like to put words on over the images, so specific areas that I'm focusing on. Maybe I'll put friendships or creativity or earning more money, career, things like that. And then in the middle of it, I usually like to put my word of the year. So that is just in the center and it's something for me to always come back to. So yeah, I really like this step. I think it's the most fun step. I just think there's so much power in visualizing what you want for yourself and just kind of being really bold at this step and putting things on that maybe past you would never have thought possible. I think this is a really good time to just kind of get crystal clear on, if nothing else was stopping me, what do I truly, truly want? And I think it can be very powerful to visualize that. So yes, that is kind of my whole process. And I really love this time of year. I love New Year's, and I just think it's such a powerful time for intention setting and reflection, which are two of my favorite activities. And I hope that just sharing a little bit of my process has inspired you in some way. There's no need for you to go and do every single step of this now, but I love watching other people's New Year's intention setting videos. And if you take any little nuggets of inspiration from this, even if you just want to choose a word of the year or make a Pinterest board, I am happy. I just wanted to share my process in case it helps anyone. So yeah, I hope that everyone is having a beautiful new start to the year, and I'm wishing you all the love and all the happiness in 2025. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one.